everybody. We are live at lunch. What are you having? My internet on Facebook, but hopefully this will get through. All right, so I've lost my countdown. I took last week off for Thanksgiving break. Hopefully you guys had some nice time with family. A little rest, shall we say, before things get crazy. So I've lost my countdown. Where are we at? I need to check my calendar. We are December 3rd. And inauguration will be January 20th. So 20 plus 28. So about 48 days, less than 50 days until Trump takes office. And I'm curious what people are doing to get ready. Here in our office, we are hiring. We're trying to fill a bunch of positions because we know that there's going to be lots of work that we'll need to be able to be ready to do to help immigrants out. But I'm curious what other people are doing to get ready for Trump in less than 50 days. Also, I just did a video about the latest news for medical exams. If you are applying for a green card, you have to do a medical exam. It's a requirement. You have to pass the medical exam. There's many different things that are asked on the medical exam. We can go over that if people have questions about that. But the biggest thing to know is that previously you could file that separately from your green card, your adjustment of status packet. Now, as of yesterday, you have to file that together with your I-45 adjustment of status packet. So make sure that you're aware of that. This is just one of those little things that, obviously USCIS makes changes regularly along the way, but we're going to see more of these changes coming up under Trump. Under the previous administration, it was basically daily changes that we saw. So I really hope that if you are working on filing your immigration application, that you are working with an attorney because otherwise it's going to be a full-time job to just track the changes. What's the latest? Great. So we have a question about the medical exam at Ciudad Juarez. So it's required whether you do an adjustment of status or also if you are processing through the consulate abroad, you're going to do that medical exam right before your interview. So you can't do it in advance here in the U.S. It has to be done at one of the civil surgeons that's required by the consulate. The question was asking about vaccinations. I just lost the question. How do they verify that you have your vaccination? So some people have proof of their vaccination from when they were a child. Other vaccinations aren't required when the older that you get. There's also some blood tests that they can do to show which vaccinations you've already had. One important thing to keep in mind is that COVID, even though we're now almost 5 years post-pandemic, USCIS still requires the COVID vaccination. So keep that in mind. That's really an issue still for some people that don't want to get the COVID vaccine. There is a waiver for it, but you have to basically show that you're against all vaccinations. So if you've ever had a flu shot or any vaccination as an adult, then you're going to have a hard time showing that you are anti-vax, period, right? So you, in order to get the waiver for the COVID vaccine, you're going to have to show that you are for religious reasons or personal reasons that you are against all vaccinations. And in order to do that, you're going to have to show that you haven't had any vaccinations as an adult. So I think that's hard to do. I actually have some clients who feel strongly about it, and I'm cautioning them not to go to the consulate because once you leave the country, you cannot come back until your immigrant visa is approved. And so if there's some hang up with your medical exam because you refuse to take the COVID vaccination, I would hate to have that person sitting outside fighting with the consulate about whether or not they're eligible for a waiver against needing to do the COVID vaccination. Thanks everybody coming in and all of the love. También hablo español. Si tienen preguntas en español, estoy aquí para contestar preguntas. Jojo Gonzalez, your wife was removed she was deported this year. You filed the I-130. What will happen now? Depending on the situation, I need a little bit more information than that. But once that I-130 is approved, eventually it will, then it goes to the National Visa Center. Then it will eventually get forwarded to the consulate of the home country. For example, if it's Mexico, it'll go to Ciudad Juarez. And then she'll have the interview. She'll do a medical exam, fingerprints, and that's where they'll tell her that she is inadmissible because of her deportation. Now, maybe she had a voluntary departure or something. I don't know the details. You're not giving those to me here, but there is a waiver that's available if she can show that her spouse will be subject to extreme hardship. If she was here undocumented, she probably also needs an unlawful presence waiver, which is a different waiver from the deportation waiver. So there's going to be a number of different applications that are going to have to be filed after the interview and then wait for those to be approved. Those are taking about 2 years. So unfortunately, it's probably going to be a bit of a wait since sounds like she's already had to leave the country. If you have more questions about that, we do a free discovery call. You can call us at 541-653-8899. RE, you're a U.S. citizen. Your dad's here he can't enter without inspection. What can you do for him? He's been here for 18 years. Yeah, those are hard because he needs a waiver. Unless you're like going to go into the military or you're already in the military, he could get a military parole in place if you choose to do that, or maybe any of your siblings are going into the military, you could do that. That might be an option. Otherwise, he's going to need a waiver. And in order to qualify for the waiver, you have to have a U.S. citizen or permanent resident spouse or parents. So I don't know his situation, if he has one, but otherwise he might not have any options. Unfortunately, you can have him call us and we will confirm that one way or the other. Pakistani, what if one person with DACA marries another person with DACA? They'll have little DACA babies, of course. No, sorry, that's a bad joke. Yeah. It's hard because people with DACA, if they marry a U.S. citizen, there's usually at least a path towards a green card and citizenship that way. But two DACA recipients that marry each other, they're going to maybe one of them might qualify for an employment-based green card, and then the other one could apply through them. I don't know. You're going to want to talk with an immigration attorney to see what your options are, because we are concerned that DACA is going to be lost once Trump takes office. He already tried to shut it down and was like halfway successful with that, right? Because people can only do renewals. They can't file initial DACA. So anyone with DACA, I'm highly recommending that you look for other options as soon as possible. This one is a mom with a U.S. citizen kid lost the birth certificate. Did you lose the kid's birth certificate? Can you use the passport instead in order to apply for your green card? So you're going to need to be able to show relationship. And unfortunately, the passport's not going to show the names of your parents like a birth certificate does. So that is going to be a requirement that you get a birth certificate. But that's pretty easy to get depending on what state you live in. You can just file for that, usually online. Oh, you called to get birth certificate from your country. You have to be there. Oh, so that's not an option. Okay. So are you saying you personally don't have a birth certificate and you just want to use your green card, or you just want to use your passport? You're definitely going to need your birth certificate. So maybe there's someone who might be able to apply for it for you. Maybe an attorney with some kind of signed authority might be able to do that for you in your home country. Pakistani is asking about possibility of deportation for both the two people that have DACA and marry each other. Yeah, unfortunately, and if they don't have any options, and if DACA is ended, then the next step would be, so this is the way I see Trump handling it, is because this is the way he did it the first time. He wanted to wind down the DACA program. And so he said, we're just going to have 1-year renewals. while we wind this down, and we're not going to let anyone do new applications. And so partly that was overturned in the courts. They went back to 2-year renewals, but still the one part of not letting new people apply, that stuck. So once you don't have status anymore, it's because DACA is deferred action for childhood arrivals. So deferred action just means you're not here legally. We should deport you, but we're going to defer taking action. We're not going to take action yet during a period of time. And that period of time is every 2 years. So if they wind that down and you can't renew it, then the next step is they'll say you are here undocumented, you have no status, DACA is finished, so now we are going to remove you. And if you apply for DACA, you know that you have to every 2 years renew it. You have to give your latest address, your work history. Even if you move during those 2 years, you're required to update your address. So that can get bad really quickly. Doctora Adiplan, ¿puede mi prima que es residente por su padre tener ciudadanía por mí? Soy su legal guardián. Su prima tener ciudadanía por mí. No entiendo su pregunta, disculpe. Usted es la tutora de su prima y ella es residente, pero ¿quién quiere la ciudadanía? ¿Usted o ella? No entiendo. Is it safe to travel internationally with the I-751 stamp? So I'm not sure if you have like an actual stamp on your passport. Most people, when they file the removal of conditions, they get a receipt notice that says that their status is extended for a period of time, usually about 24 months. I think at one point it was like up to even 36 months because they were taking so long on these applications. I would usually encourage my clients to take their expired green card along with that notice. If you have a stamp in your passport, even better, but I would probably still take all those documents just to be on the safe side. You can never be too safe when you're leaving the country and trying to get back in. Lil Junior, nothing new for strongly. Francisca Duran, are you able to get a visa for your very old grandparents? Possibly. There's no harm in trying, but usually what they're looking for is whether or not the person is actually going to return or if they're going to just stay in the U.S. and try to either live here or get a green card here. So it can be difficult. I recommend that it be, if you're requesting a visa, that be for a specific reason, like maybe somebody's boda or quinceañera or something like that. So that they're coming for a specific purpose. But even then, it can be hard to get those approved. What are the consequences of working in payrolls only using your Social Security number without work authorization? So if you're working with an employer who actually knows how to complete those forms, the I-9 requires evidence of status. So there's a couple of lists that they can pull from. But usually if someone is presenting a driver's license and a Social Security number, they are claiming to be a U.S. citizen. So the direct consequence of claiming to be a U.S. citizen is that you are now inadmissible because you have claimed to be a U.S. citizen, and there is currently no waiver for that. So that's a pretty strong consequence. Some people may say, well, I didn't actually declare that I was a citizen, but there's really no way to fill out the I-90 with just your Social Security number and an ID without a green card or a work permit, without declaring that you're a U.S. citizen. So I would be really careful. Even if you're applying for adjustment of status now, you're going to want to make sure that any I-9s that you filled out previously, that you filled them out, that you make sure that you didn't accidentally declare U.S. citizenship there, because I have seen immigration request old I-9s from employers and require employers to produce those. So that can get ugly really quickly. So make sure that you take a look at that. Doctor Ediplan, su padre la dejó y tomé su tutorial llegar. Ya yo soy ciudadana o quiere la ciudadanía para ella. Esto no creo que funcione así, pero llámanos y podamos pensarlo bien. Esto es algo un poco fuera de lo que normalmente hacemos. 541-653-8899 es nuestro número para llamar para una cita gratuita para revisar la aceptación de su prima. Gina, if someone's in removal proceedings and hardship was on the child but no date yet, and now he's over 21. Yeah, that's what's so hard about cancellation of removal is it's based on hardship to a qualifying relative, which can be a parent, a spouse, or a child who's a U.S. citizen or a resident. But once that child turns 21, they're no longer going to be a qualifying relative. I hope that maybe there's another qualifying relative that you can use. Usually in that situation, what I do is ask the court to speed up the case so that it can be decided before that child turns 21. Because unfortunately, once they turn 21, there's nothing else you can do unless there's another qualifying relative, which is why I get so upset when people are encouraged to apply for like asylum, even though they're not eligible for asylum, because they know that it will be denied and they want to get before an immigration judge so they can apply for this 10-year rule. People call it like the 10-year plan. Can you do that 10-year thing for me? That requires showing hardship to a qualifying relative. And if that qualifying relative, God forbid, dies or ages out past 21, then you're out of luck. And then you're being deported because somebody recommended this plan to you. Highly do not recommend doing that. David, el correo perdió mi green card. Oh, lo siento. Ya hice la I-90. ¿Cuánto tarda en llegar la tarjeta? ¿Puedo salir a México? Puede hacer, si ya metió el I-90, puede llamar para un InfoPass, no sé cómo se dice, una cita con inmigración, para pedir un sello en su pasaporte para poder viajar. Lo siento mucho que eso sucedió. David, su pregunta está aquí como 10 veces. No sé qué pasó. Bebe, hola, ¿qué significa excepción de pago de tarifa aceptada en la página de UCIS? Esto quiere decir que usted solicitó algo, una petición, y esa petición califica para recibir una excepción de pago, o sea, decir que no es necesario pagar si puede demostrar que califica para esa excepción. Entonces, si dice que fue aceptada con excepción de pago, quiere decir que recibieron que el caso está en proceso y que no había necesidad de hacer el pago del honorario de inmigración. Roberto, I didn't say VAWA has been in limbo. I just said if you're planning to apply for any of the humanitarian cases like VAWA, which is for people who have been victims of abuse in their relationship, either with spouse, child, or parents, or U visas, which is for victims of violent crimes, or T victims of trafficking. I highly recommend that if you've been thinking about hiring somebody, that you do that as soon as possible. We don't know what's going to happen to those cases, but we did see under the first Trump administration that he did attack those cases and try to do damage to those programs, because that's what bullies do. They go after the weak and the people that can't defend themselves. So that's why we're here fighting for immigrants. How much does it cost to renew your green card after 7 years expired? Lone Wolf, why did you let it expire? 7 years is a long time. Usually when people come to us after so much time, it's because they're worried about renewing. Maybe there's like a reason. Maybe they were outside the country for a long time, or they had some contact with law enforcement. So make sure that you talk with an attorney if you have any of those fears before you renew it. The filing fee right now is like $465 or something like that. I think it's cheaper if you file it online. But honestly, if it's been that long, I would recommend you renew it and then file for your citizenship as long as you're eligible. Give us a call and we'll let you know. We'll confirm or deny. And highly recommend anyone who is a permanent resident who's eligible for citizenship that you do that, because we don't want to see anybody deported that doesn't need to be deported. AA, I think your first part of your message got lost in all of these. Please answer David. He's so annoying. I know, David, why did you ask so many times? Yeah, contesté. Oh my gosh, so many times. Yeah, and all of the messages like get lost in between it. Kamal, I'm not sure what the I-360 VAWA correspondence was received. USCIS is reviewing. Maybe did they do like a request for evidence and you responded to it? That might be what they're reviewing. So Hema, I'm not sure what if you didn't sign an I-9, I'm not sure what your employer used for your paperwork. You're worried about the IRS, what could happen. So whatever number you put on your paperwork when you start a job, that's the information that they're going to put on your W-2 if you're an employee, or on your 1099 if you're a contractor. So that's the information then that will get sent to the IRS. IRS doesn't care if you're documented or undocumented. They just want their money. So as long as you're paying your taxes, you should be okay. Vega, hola, ¿el permiso de viaje VAWA es seguro para salir en Navidad o mejor no arriesgarse? Yo normalmente recomiendo que a mis clientes con VAWA, si están en proceso con su residencia, que esperen hasta que hasta que tenga su residencia para poder viajar, pero depende de su situación. Entonces recomiendo platicar con su abogado o abogada, o si no tiene, llámanos si podemos revisar su situación. Your spouse has the permanent bar, Texas AG Pro. Will advanced parole allow you to sponsor for adjustment status on her behalf as a U.S. citizen? Unfortunately, the advanced parole does not cure the permanent bar. It sucks. This permanent bar really needs to go, but unfortunately it's been on the books for almost 30 years. And I don't think it's going to go anywhere anytime soon. What happens if you lie under oath during an interview about the name that you made up? Melina, good question. So you're probably talking about like you had an immigration interview for maybe an adjustment of status or green card application, and they asked you if you'd used other names, and maybe you didn't remember the name that you used. So I think that there's different ways that an attorney could help you explain that to immigration about what happened. If it's not able to be explained, then they'll probably find you inadmissible due to fraud or misrepresentation, but there is a waiver available for that. So definitely you need to make sure you're talking with an attorney about that situation. Sorry that happened to you. A lot of people say a lot of things when they're nervous. And that's why I think it's always important that clients go, even if clients have a clean case, I still recommend that they go with an attorney. Because then the attorney knows exactly what is happening and is able to even interrupt an interview if need be. Okay, Ish, thank you for the warning that you're going to do a series of questions. So your dad has withholding of removal. He's asked you to join the military since he thinks he can qualify for parole in place. And then I lost you because other people jumped in. Oh, wait. He reopened his case in the past and got denied, and then had your mom sponsor and failed because he's married, has American citizen. So basically, we'll join you in the military help. You're going to want to talk with an attorney, immigration attorney, about this. If he's already done a motion to reopen, he might not be able to do another motion to reopen. There's limitations on how many of those you can do. So if he already has withholding of removal, he's safe-ish for now. And so before you go and join the military, you definitely want to make sure that will help you. Okay, Melina, so you did get a letter stating about a I-601 and the evidence required for that. So definitely make sure you're talking with an attorney about how to get that done. They probably gave you a filing deadline, maybe 60, 90 days, 87 days usually is what they give. Sorry, guys. I'm feeling very parched today. So make sure, Melina, you're talking with an attorney about how to complete that, because if you don't file that correctly, or you don't file it on time, or if it's denied because not enough evidence was submitted, then the whole thing is going to be denied. You're going to have to start from scratch again. Or worst case scenario, they could put you into removal proceedings with a judge. So now is the time, if you don't have an attorney on that case, to get an attorney right away. Angel Juicio, you're asking about an I-612. Are you sure you've got the number right? I don't know that I've ever heard of an I-612. Rocael, yo tengo caso de visa U. Hace un año fui de huellas y mi abogada dice que no hay ni señas aún. So, estamos mirando que como más o menos 2 o 3 años es la espera para recibir un permiso de trabajo por medio de la visa U. Están muy atrasados. Entonces, va en camino, va en la dirección correcta, pero tiene que tener paciencia. Threading by Jesse, you did not answer. I'm sorry, guys. There's like so many people are repeating their questions, and questions are getting cut off. So threading by Jesse, if you want to ask your question again, I'm not sure where it might be. Erica, tiene una visa T aprobada. Felicidades. Y tiene si puede pedir permiso de viaje si tiene DACA. Sí, claro, se puede pedir un advance parole, es un permiso para viajar. Tiene que demostrar que tiene un base legítima para poder viajar. Así que hay que trabajar con un abogado para prepararlo bien. Okay. Doctora también está pidiendo a sus padres, si recuerdo bien, usted es ciudadana, hace un año, si están afuera o están adentro, eso depende, que hace un año y está tardando más de lo normal. No hay nada normal con inmigración. Entonces, ellos dicen cuáles son los tiempos que están demorando, pero nunca se puede, o sea, esos tiempos son para que no se puede quejar hasta que ya está pasado. Están afuera, dice la doctora. Entonces depende qué país, dónde están, qué tantas otras personas ya están en proceso. Cuando está procesando afuera es un proceso de 3 pasos. No sé si ya está con el I-130, si ya ese primer paso ya fue aprobado. Entonces está complicado. Eso es lo que hace difícil contestar preguntas aquí, es que no tengo toda la información a veces y no sé exactamente dónde está en su proceso. Are you still hiring? You help your family members and friends with immigration paperwork. You want to help. Yes, we are still sorting through the hundreds of resumes that we received. I'm really grateful for that. We are still definitely hiring. Doctora están en República Dominicana. Entonces, tiene que ver con cuántos oficiales están procesando, cuándo están dando entrevistas, cuántas personas están esperando entrevistas, entonces tiene que ver con muchos factores. Ok. De acuerdo, doctora, necesita abogada. Si quiere llamarnos, 541-653-8899. Por lo menos para asesorarle. Jane, what is prima facie all about? So maybe in the context of a VAWA, for example. So whenever immigration is taking a look at something with VAWA, they will, when they receive the VAWA application, they'll give it kind of like a first glance. So prima facie is, from my understanding, is Latin, right? It means like first glance, take a look at it. On its face, it looks like it will be approved. And so they issue what's called a prima facie notice. And it's great for people who are applying for VAWA because it can take several years to actually get status through VAWA. Meanwhile, that prima facie determination, you can use that to get public benefits. So which is really cool because most immigrants don't have access to things like welfare and food stamps. But with that prima facie determination, you can take that and go get benefits. So if you or someone you know has that, make sure that they're taking advantage of that. Tracy, your friend was in removal proceedings, a permanent resident in removal proceedings. The judge dismissed the case. What does he do next? So that means that the judge found the government wanted to take away his residency, wanted to deport him, but for some reason or another, the judge found that the government can't do that. So a couple things could happen. The government could refile the case based on something else. Maybe their case wasn't strong enough, but they could refile it at any time. If your friend is eligible for citizenship, I would highly recommend that they file now. The government could push back on it and say like they're not eligible, or could try to put them back into removal proceedings. It becomes kind of like just this big messy thing. Hopefully you guys have an attorney that's working on that, but he can either do nothing and just renew his green card when it comes time to renew it, or he could go for the citizenship now if he's eligible for that. Can you get deported after with a VAWA case pending? I hope not. Under the first Trump administration, the government was saying that people who have those cases pending should go back to their country and wait until it's finally approved and then be able to come back. So we might see that happen again. Definitely, I would take your paperwork wherever you go. If you have that prima facie determination, if you get an ICE officer who is either lazy or nice, they might not detain you. So Jane, hopefully that helps you. Lala, can your sister, your sister's on her visa currently for 3 months with a pending I-130 filed before she was 21. Can she adjust her status? Depends who applied for her. Elizabeth has 2 DUIs. Are you eligible for citizenship? Depends on when. They look mostly at the last 5 years. So I usually recommend that you don't have anything at all in the last 5 years, like that even you wait, and if you have some kind of probation, that you wait 5 years after the probation ended. But they also will look back at your whole history. So I'd need to know more information before I told you whether you're eligible or not. Henry, you have an emergency parole appointment. Hopefully an attorney helped you with that. You should be asking your attorney what they filed so that you know what to say. Tracy, your friend's lawyer just told him to renew his green card. Yeah. But if he's eligible for citizenship, he should do that too. Lala, I remember your original question, and then like there's more information below, but I don't see. Oh, it was I see her dad applied for her. Her dad has a green card. If she's been here for 3 months, you're definitely going to want to talk with an attorney about how long she can stay here. At some point, she's probably going to have to leave the country. And so the recommendation would be to make sure that there's not more than 6 months unlawful presence, because at the 6-month point, that's where you require a waiver. So definitely talk with an attorney about that. We'd be happy to take a look at that if you're not already working with somebody. Our number is 541-653-8899. Do you have to do the medical for the T visa too? No, but eventually you'll do your adjustment of status for your green card. That's when you have to do the medical exam. Where I was talking earlier about the medical exam goes with the green card application, whether you're inside the country or out. And it does require certain things like vaccinations. So like the COVID vaccination, it also has like a blood test, and they check for STDs and tuberculosis. So there's different things, different ways. They also are looking for any mental health disorders, and including any kind of substance abuse. All right. I have to jump off. I'm sorry. Just realized it's 1:30. I've got other appointments. But join me tomorrow live at lunch, and I'll answer more questions and start talking about what we need to be doing to prepare for Trump's arrival in less than 50 days. So stick with us here. And if you haven't already followed us, make sure that you're following us. We're going to be putting out some very specific information in the coming weeks to help people be ready for what is to come. So thanks everyone for joining. Thanks for the love. And I hope you all have a great day. Go eat some lunch.